Welcome, everyone, to this briefing brought to you by the Israel Defense and Security Forum, IDSF. In Hebrew name is Abitchonistim. IDSF is the leading Israeli organization advocating for strong national security to defend Israel. It's a great pleasure to be joined today by Brigadier General Yossi Kuperwasser, who is no stranger to these briefings and is a very seasoned veteran and expert when it comes to all matters of Israel's national defense and especially all of its intelligence programs. So, General Kuperwasser, thank you so much for joining today.
My pleasure. Thank you very
I
much.
want to ask you an open-ended question and take it where you want. What can we expect to see right now in these coming days from Hezbollah, from Iran?
Well, I think that they're still ready to launch some sort of punishment attack against Israel that is, in their mind, necessary in order to deal with the really painful damage done to them by the Israeli attacking against Fuad Shukr, the #1 military man in Hezbollah, and by the sudden death of Ismail Haniyeh that is attributed to Israel, this day attributed to Israel, and that happened in Tehran. So they feel that they have to do something, otherwise their self-respect, self-honor is going to be damaged so severely that they will not be able to walk in the street anymore. And that's why I think that we should still brace ourselves to some sort of an attack. The problem with the Iranians and Hezbollah is that they know that anything they are going to do is going to be retaliated heavily by Israel, because Israel feels that killing Fuad Shukr was the right thing to do after what happened in Majid al-Shams. And because Israel believes that even if you blame it for Ismail Haniyeh death, the death of Ismail Haniyeh was justified, bearing in mind that he was the leader of Hamas, an organization that carried out the 7th of October attack. So it's Israel feels that there's no justification for any of the attacks that Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran are planning, and therefore it is ready to retaliate in a very strong manner. And neither Iran nor Hezbollah want to suffer the capabilities of Israel being shown on their expense. That's why they have to come up with something that is creative. It has to be something unexpected. It has to be something that's going to be successful, because the Iranians tried once to hit Israel with 350 projectiles in mid-April, and it was not successful. Now, to repeat the same thing and fail again is not a good idea. It's going to have a negative impact on the image of the Iranian regime at home and abroad. So they need to come up with something innovative and creative. And they say it's going to be something different. It's going to be something that nobody thinks about. It's going to be a surprise. What surprise we cannot say. We are familiar with most of the Iranian capabilities, but what surprise they plan, we don't know. And same with Hezbollah. We are familiar with most of their capabilities. Definitely now, after fighting them for 10 months, we know what they can and what they can't do. Yes, they still have some capabilities that were not used during the war. As a matter of their decision not to escalate in an uncontrolled manner. But we know what they have, more or less. So everybody expects to see what is going to be the creative manner of action of Hezbollah and Iran. Another issue that is still on the agenda is whether they're going to operate simultaneously and cooperate their reaction, or whether each one of them is going to do whatever they can on their own timetable. Again, it's a big unknown. Israel, anyhow, has to be prepared to face any kind of Iranian plus Hezbollah plus Houthi action against it, and be ready to respond heavily. Of course, the response is going to be partly designed according to the kind of attack we are going to suffer, not only by the results. Even a big attack without big success can be responded in a severe manner. Definitely a big attack with severe consequences would have to be responded by a severe response by Israel. So Israel has to be ready to all kinds of attacks and all kinds of responses. Israeli responses at the same time, and we shouldn't be waiting too long for the Israeli response because there was enough time for everybody to prepare. It's not like previously that we didn't know that this was coming and then it was coming and we didn't have, it took us a couple of days to decide what to do. We can have the menu ready by now, say, okay, this kind of terror attacks against civilian targets can be responded this way, this kind of civilian attack against military targets can be responded that way. All of that can be pre-planned and pre-prepared so that we should be able to use them whatever happens. Now we have to remember, with all due respect to the capabilities of Hezbollah and Iran, Israel has its own capabilities. We have shown them in mid-April, and I hope everybody is definitely in the highest alert, and I hope you are going to be able to thwart most of the incoming weaponry that's going to be launched our way. We do have some problems with the UAVs coming from Lebanon. Our rate of success over there is less than what we were used to when it comes to rockets. But I hope that we should be able to deal with most of the incoming projectiles that's going to be launched our way, and we definitely have the very strong capability to respond. And then one other thing that I would like to emphasize is that at the end of the day, this entire thing of the Iranian and the Hezbollah attacks that we are going to witness probably in the coming days is part of the fight over Gaza. The most important, the reason they do that is because they want to convince us to let Hamas remain the governing force in Gaza. This is what the war is all about. That's why we hear all kinds of messages, unofficial messages, some of them almost official messages coming from Iran, that and also from Hezbollah to some extent, that if we are going to reach an agreement with Hamas, leave Hamas in power in Gaza, then the necessity to respond to Israel is not going to be that high because we already got what we want. So what do we need to go through another escalation for if we already got what we want? That's another message for Israel to be very determined on the Gaza issue and to remain committed to defeating Hamas in Gaza and removing it from power. Maybe we can go for a pause for releasing the hostages, but we should not give up the ultimate goal of removing Hamas from power and defeating it in Gaza. That's my take on the Iranian Hezbollah issue.
General, thank you for all that. If I could just ask a follow-up question or two. You say that Iran failed on April 14th, and now they have to be creative. They need to be successful, so to speak. So what is in their arsenal? What are their creative options? Meaning we know about their ICBMs and the cruise missiles and the drones, which failed on April 14th. So can you give us an idea of what are other options potentially that they could be thinking about?
No, because I don't want to give them ideas. I don't know if they thought about those issues. But definitely we should be, amongst other things, prepared to face cyber attacks. We have to be able to be ready to face attacks on Israeli embassies and official delegations abroad. These are all things that we should be worried about. I have more ideas for them, but I'm not going to share it with them publicly.
I very much appreciate that response. That's fantastic. Thank you for not answering my question. Let me ask a different question then. What is the level of preparedness and cooperation between the U.S. and Israel at this point?
I think it's very high. We have a very strong cooperation. It was shown very well in mid-April, and I think the Americans have brought now, I think, even more airplanes and ships than they did in mid-April. They are fully prepared to help us. I think the British are ready too. I hope the Jordanians and the Saudis will do what they did then. Because it's most important to make sure that Iran is unsuccessful in what they plan to do. Definitely, if they plan to do the same thing that or just more of the same thing that they did in April, it's a big challenge. It was a big challenge in April. It wasn't easy. Now that we know the results, we look at it as if it's a walk in the park, but it's not. It's a very demanding challenge, and just like we managed to do it last time, we have to do it successfully this time. I think if we manage to do it twice, then the message to Iran will be much, much clearer that not only they are a very dangerous country and that cannot be relied upon and should be untrusted by anybody, distrusted by anybody, but they are less capable than what they think they are, and more vulnerable than what they think they are. These are things that can be proven in this round as well. Once you prove it twice, it's the proof is more profound. So I think that this is something that we have to be prepared to. If we fail, that's a problem. I hope we won't fail this time, just like we didn't fail in it.
And then when Israel is coordinating with CENTCOM and with U.S. forces, is there a sense that they're being held back by policymakers in the states, by the White House or by the State Department, or there's full level of cooperation in CENTCOM and they don't say, hey, hold on a second, I got to call my boss back in D.C. to see if we can do this?
I think that when it comes to cooperation in defending Israel against incoming weaponry, the cooperation is full and nobody has to go call back anybody. They are totally committed. And we have practiced this so many times, and all those drills, Juniper, falconry, God knows what number of exercises like that, joint exercises like that we have conducted throughout the year. But when it comes to offensive response by Israel following such an attack, this can be something different, depends on what are going to be the results of the Iranian attack. And under certain circumstances, the Americans can help, but we cannot build on that. We have to be able to do what we need to do on our own, and just hope that the Americans will understand, even if they don't cooperate operation.
Sure. And the Iranian nuclear program, is that at all in the picture right now in terms of the Iranians being protective of that and therefore gauging their attack on Israel, or Israel's capacity to think about striking that at this time? Is that at all part of the conversation?
I cannot say because I don't know, and because even if I knew, I would not tell the Iranians in advance what are the potential targets. But I believe the Iranians consider that as an option. From their point of view, they view all the options as possible options. They have to be prepared. They have to be ready to defend everything in Iran. That's a big task.
Okay, I'm going to ask another question. Maybe you say you can't answer this, but in terms of Israel's forces and what Israel has showed to date in this war versus the secret weapons, so to speak, that Israel has, is there more that Israel can bring to the table to end these threats from Hezbollah or Iran?
Yes, I think we haven't used much of our capabilities until now. We were very modest in using our capabilities. Because when it comes to Iran and Hezbollah, we haven't been fighting a war with them. We just exchanged fire in a limited manner until now. And if we end up with a bigger conflict, more intensive conflict, even short of a war, definitely if we end up in a war, there's much more that we can use. So definitely.
Thank you for answering at least one of my questions. I know you're on a tight schedule, so final question, if you have one more minute, which is your expertise obviously is military intelligence. We've spoken a lot about the failures of that military intelligence in October. What is your sense right now in terms of Israel looking at Hezbollah, Israel looking at the Houthis, Israel looking at Iran? Is the military intelligence and the way of thinking where it should be right now?
Well, we have to differentiate between two kinds of military intelligence. One is the military intelligence that is necessary to support operations or to carry out operations. In this respect, Israel has been very successful right from the beginning of the war, the day after the beginning of the war, I would say. We were able to locate targets and hit many important and critical and strategic targets, including Fuad Shukr, including other human targets, but not only. Very often we have hit strategic targets that were not human targets, but infrastructure of the enemy and a lot of terrorists. So all of that is a big achievement of the Israeli operational intelligence. When it comes to strategic intelligence, intelligence for early warning, the balance is not as bright. Definitely what happened on the 7th of October and also on the 14th of October, 14th of April. I don't think that the Israeli intelligence was correct in its assessment. So it's a more mixed situation. I don't know what the intelligence think about what's going to happen now. But one thing is clear, we definitely have to be prepared for all the options. We have first and foremost to be prepared for the things that the intelligence predicts that are going to happen. But we have to be at the same time prepared for all eventualities. And not because we don't trust the intelligence, but because it's the logical thing to do.
Absolutely. Brigadier General Yossi Kuperwasser, thank you for joining me today. Thank you for sharing your expertise. Very much appreciate it. I know you're a busy man, so we'll let you go right now.
Thank you very much. All the best.
And I want to thank all of our viewers for joining this briefing and submitting your questions. And I'll note that as we do these briefings, very often we get repeat questions. And many people have been asking about the CNN report about the effectivity of the IDF in Gaza. And I would refer you to a briefing we did earlier this week on August 5th, wherein General Avivi spoke extensively about that CNN report and how he disagrees with it and his orientation to what is happening in Gaza. And likewise, people have asked about the need for Israel not just to wait and be on the defensive, but to go on the offensive. And why isn't Israel using this moment now to strike Israel? We dealt with that extensively in yesterday's briefing. So I would encourage everyone, if you have either of those questions, to refer back to these previous briefings, and you can get all of the information. You can check them out on our YouTube channel if you subscribe to our newsletter, so then you should see them in your inbox, and you can learn all about what we think, what IDSF is presenting in terms of how this war is unfolding. We're going to end our briefing a little early today, as the general had an urgent meeting he needed to jump into. And I'll thank all of our viewers for sending in questions today, for sending them previously, for following along these briefings, for sharing them with your family and with your friends, for liking them on YouTube. We will be back with you next week, Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. here in Israel. Until then, stay safe, stay strong. Take care, everyone.